Hello, I'm Ms. Fox. I'm a software engineer, trying to be a game developer, and for the past year, I've been out of work due to a layoff. There are a lot of reasons for my continued unemployment, most prominent among them being a high level of competition for jobs due to the ongoing layoffs in tech and gaming for the past 2 or more years. You've heard this story before, probably even from people more senior in the industry than me. The part of the story that you probably haven't heard as much, though, is that all of us, the programmers out of work, aren't just competing with each other. Let me explain. A while back, I had a technical interview for a job that I ultimately didn't get. The interview was pretty straightforward. In the hour allotted, write a small bit of code to solve a provided problem, and then discuss your process, practical applications, and potential improvements. It doesn't really matter where or who was doing the interview, nor does it matter if I did well on the problem, although for the record, I did. No, what matters is that after completing the problem, my interviewer offhandedly remarked that it kinda didn't matter what I wrote for my answer, because this is the type of coding question you could have chat-gpt solve in a matter of seconds. And this, to me, gives away the game. All of us struggling in tech and games to find a job aren't just competing with each other, we're competing with AI. If this were the Hunger Games and all of the programmers were the tributes, AI is essentially the Capitol deciding to add a genetically modified bear to the game, not as a feature of the arena, but as a competitor to the other tributes. When I hear criticisms of AI, it's usually from one of 4 angles. 1. Generated AI images and text are used as threats against people in creative fields. If you follow any artist on any social media platforms, you've probably seen them speaking out against AI, as it makes it harder to find paid work and AI often steals their work so it can mimic their style. 2. AI creates a lot of misinformation. Maybe you've heard about Google search results about glue on pizza, or AI books that spout conspiracies about recent events. In my search for work, I've personally seen fake job listings and even fake corporate websites with generated text and images. It's incredibly easy to have AI generate convincing sounding text to give your scam an air of legitimacy. 3. AI doesn't even do what it's supposed to do. It makes so many basic mistakes. It can't make minor changes based on feedback like a normal person can, and it just flat out isn't profitable. It sucks, and most people who aren't trying to sell it seem to hate it. 4. AI consumes absurd amounts of power and water. Even ignoring every other problem it has, it's a serious environmental concern, especially against the backdrop of climate change. These are all incredibly important angles, but one angle I often see left out of the discussion is its effects on tech jobs. As I explained at the top, AI has entered this free-for-all, but I don't really hear a lot of people discussing that aspect. There are probably a few reasons for that. I have to imagine a major reason people don't discuss this aspect is that people perceive the hype for AI as at least partially coming from software engineers, or at least the subset you might call tech bros. If AI is threatening software jobs, you might be tempted to call it comeuppance. The tech bros are just reaping what they've sown, right? Except I'm not one of the people who worked on AI, and I suspect most of the people looking for programming work right now didn't work on AI either. Tech bros haven't reaped any rotten fruits. What they've actually done is actively poison my crops, and they're currently trying to salt any patch of earth they don't own the deed to. Another reason I don't hear about the impact of AI in the tech sector is that some people seem to think it actively benefits programming jobs. I've heard people like the interviewer from my story talk about how AI can probably make coding faster by automating away some of the simpler tasks. But is that even true? In my experience, no, it's not. AI's training set for coding is likely script from Stack Overflow responses and GitHub projects, both public and private. Just like if you ask it to write a recipe or a research paper, chat-gpt isn't doing the hard work of thinking about the problem and finding solution. It's generating a convincing sounding answer based on what those answers typically look like. Maybe it will answer a simple question correctly if you phrase it the right way, but that's still a maybe. Not every Stack Overflow response is correct, and not every GitHub repository is in a pristine, bug-free state. If you want chat-gpt to write a program for you, you're likely going to spend a lot of time rewriting that program yourself. AI can't make minor adjustments based on your feedback or do your debug work for you. Do you need multiple scripts that communicate with each other? Well, good luck getting AI to do that, because chat-gpt can't apply big picture thinking to the problem. It doesn't think. chat-gpt won't write helpful code comments or documentation to explain what the code actually does in order to make it readable or reusable. You're going to have to go through line by line to figure out what everything actually does. And you better do that, because most people who make games or write any kind of code like to be able to use their past projects as some kind of jumping off point for a new project. With the amount of work you'll have to put into fixing the problems in AI-generated code, you could have just as easily written the code from scratch all by yourself. You may be wondering how this can be true. You might have seen videos of people claiming they've coded games in some absurdly small amount of time with AI. Well, I hate to break it to you, but the people who made those videos are either lying about how long they spent rewriting the code, actively ignoring the problems with the code, or just completely ignorant of the problems and inefficiencies in the generated code. Actually, I don't hate to break it to you. I love breaking this to you, actually, because it's important that people know about all of the lies surrounding AI. So then, why is it that AI is still pushed so much as a coding tool? Like every other use, it just doesn't work and it's not profitable. The companies pushing this likely know that too. Software and games companies within the past few years have almost certainly dedicated research and development time to investigate integrating AI into their coding process. And they've probably been told by their research and development teams the same things that I've just told you. Why should we keep pretending this is true? Firstly, sometimes it just doesn't matter what people who are actually knowledgeable about a topic have to say. If the CEO or some other higher up thinks it'll do something for them, the company will keep funneling money into the genetically modified bear, regardless of all the research teams telling them it's a bad idea. Secondly, what AI lacks in utility, it makes up for with intimidation. You see, it doesn't really matter if AI is the future, if it's profitable, or if it's even capable of doing the thing it's supposed to do. What matters is that there is a lot of money currently being put into marketing it as all of those things and creating hype and news articles that make people believe AI will automate and replace all kinds of jobs. If you're in one of those jobs, maybe your boss is talking a big game about AI and you don't know if it's bluster or they're just a complete idiot. Even worse, maybe you don't even know what conversations the higher-ups are having about AI. Couple that with an R&D team that's either being ignored or afraid to tell the boss something they don't want to hear, and you can get an environment where there's very little pushback against the AI hype and a lot of fear about the future. And that fear is entirely justified. I went to college so that I could learn to make games. And that decision was fully supported by my parents, since my education track would lead me to getting a computer science degree. Given that learn to code was a core talking point in the air as I was growing up, getting a diploma proving I did exactly that surely was going to lead me to job security and stable income. Unfortunately, the current job market for programmers is obscene. Right now, as a mid-level developer with a few years of experience under her belt, I've applied for over 1,000 listings, not just in game development, but in the wider software sector. I've applied for mid-level and senior positions where I either match the criteria or I'm close enough that it's reasonable I'd make up the difference by learning on the job. I have applied to entry-level positions where I am vastly overqualified. I apply to open listings on job search platforms like LinkedIn, and I even track down listings only seen on company sites. I have sent out hundreds of general applications and cold emails inquiring about open positions. I am open to remote, hybrid, and in-office positions, and I'm fully willing to relocate to basically any state in this country. In the past year, I have been given fewer than 10 interviews. Nearly all of the positions for which I have applied almost certainly have hundreds, if not thousands, of other applicants who are in my same position, as well as people fresh out of college trying to get their career started. This is all while companies are still actively laying off programmers, making the pool of competitors even larger. In addition to competing with each other, we're being evaluated against the prospect of prompting chat-gpt to generate a program and then having a freelancer fix it as quickly and cheaply as possible. We are competing against the promised future of AI. The end goal is to turn as much programming work as possible into freelance debugging for the broken programs spat out by chat-gpt. Prompt engineering is not a viable or equivalent career path. It's a nonsense phrase made up to sell AI as a job creator instead of a job defiler. What interest would a company have in employing a prompt engineer if that work could be offloaded to the project manager or the freelancer they're already paying to fix ChatGPT's broken code? In what world is prompt engineering going to pay a livable wage when the core task is to tell a computer to do your work for you? The playbook for achieving this so-called AI future is pretty straightforward. Step 1. Encourage or mandate the use of AI as a coding tool within your company. Step 2. Let go of programmers who have the longest project turnaround time. Step 3. Redistribute the project workload amongst remaining staff and grow your list of freelancers. Step 4. Repeat all previous steps until your programming department is ChatGPT and a long list of freelancers. If you're currently employed as a programmer, you may be wondering what can even be done about this. The first step to avoiding this future is to talk to other people in your company. Talk to other non-management employees to get a sense of how they feel about AI. You might just find that even in a company without much vocal opposition to AI, the people around you still have concerns. Try to coordinate an organized effort to speak out or raise concerns about AI. And hey, while you're having these conversations, maybe you can start discussing other workplace issues like pay transparency or unionization. Once you've had these conversations, there are a couple actions you could commit to. If your workplace has any kind of channel or method for sharing industry news, take the time to share articles and news stories detailing the failings and dangers of AI. This is especially important if your industry news channel is currently being flooded with pro-AI stories. If you regularly have meetings with a manager or some other higher up, you can try to use that time to bring up your concerns about AI. This will be more effective if you know that other fellow workers are doing the same thing with their time. Finally, if your company has any kind of office hours or all-hands procedures that allow you to ask questions to the CEO or other high-ranking people, try to get some time in to ask pointed questions about AI. Ask some leading questions about the company's stance on AI, the extent of research done into evaluating AI's risks, the company's opinion on overwhelmingly negative customer perception of AI, and other topics that show there is a reason to be concerned about adding AI to the workflow. The future of AI is scary, but this isn't because it has any real capability of replacing workers. Instead, it's scary because the threat of replacement is used to silence workers. It's another weapon in the corporate armory used to prevent unionization efforts and enforce unsustainable work practices. Coupled with the recent ongoing mass layoffs, there's a lot of unspoken threats to worker safety and job security. The higher-ups want this to have a chilling effect on all collective worker action, and your instinct may be to keep your head down and do whatever work is asked of you without any fuss. Unfortunately, this self-preservation tactic doesn't do anything to prevent these threats from being wielded against you. If the AI bear wreaks havoc on your company, the CEO will not be one of the people who gets mauled, and your boss will not be the person to clean up the mess. It's the workers who will pay the price, and you will either be mauled by the bear, tasked with the grueling work of cleaning up after the carnage, or let go to cover the cleanup costs. The only way to fight back is to talk to your fellow workers, and to push a visible counter-narrative to the one currently being sold by AI companies. Thank you so much for watching this video, or listening to it in the background while you were doing other tasks. I've been waffling back and forth the past year or so about whether or not I even wanted to start this channel, and my intention is that future videos will be a lot more lighthearted about video games and media analysis and things like that. But for my first video, I kind of needed to talk about this. This topic has been background noise in my life since like half a year before I was laid off. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll watch again in the next one.